This is Support is Sexy, episode 198, with Jennifer Miotke, president of On One Matchmaking. Welcome to Support is Sexy. I'm your host, Elayne Fluker, entrepreneur, author, and founder of Chic Rebellion Media. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I interview inspiring women entrepreneurs who share their wins and their lessons to help you take your business and your life to the next level and create something sexy. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Support is Sexy. I'm so excited to have you here. You know, it just would not be the same without you. And today we're going to have fun, and at least I had a lot of fun in interviewing Jennifer Miotke. Jennifer is the president of On One Matchmaking, which is a matchmaking service here in Atlanta. And I came to Jennifer through Jill Harris, Jill wasn't a client. Her husband, was a client. Jill met Rob through On One Matchmaking. I met Jill through my attorney, Andy, in New York. See how this all works? Jill introduced me to Sarah Kathryn, who owns On One Matchmaking. Sarah introduced me to the lovely Jennifer, who is president of On One Matchmaking and who is on our show today. I thought you needed to know how all this matchmaking worked out for this episode. Jennifer is wonderful, great burst of energy, a lot of heart, which works for being a matchmaker. And what I love about this episode is not only Jennifer's energy and her passion, which clearly comes through for matchmaking, connecting people, helping people find love and happiness, but also that she is very real, very tell it like it is. She's a Southern girl. She tells it like it is, but very sweet at the same time. And also, as you know, I have these moments where I admit it, I'm fully selfish, and I want to know as much information as I can of what people think about dating, especially here in Atlanta, because it's a new city for me. And Jennifer had great feedback about that, dating in general, but also dating here in Atlanta. So on this episode, what you'll hear from Jennifer is how conquering your fear helps you build up your grit and resistance, how growing your business too fast could hurt your brand, the importance of great referrals, Jennifer's top 3 tips for finding a great matchmaker, the most common challenges successful women face when dating. Also, her top 3 tips for a great first date. What saying, quote unquote, I'm too busy really means. And make sure you listen out to this because this really struck a nerve with me, so much so that I did an episode a few episodes ago, episode 192, Are You Taking the Leap or Are You Half-Stepping?, which was inspired by my conversation with Jennifer about this idea of saying you're too busy and what that really means. So make sure you listen out for that. Jennifer also shares with us why you can't care about your client's success more than they do. That's something I have to get in my head. Also, why you have to be aware of being apathetic about your own happiness, and the importance of second chances. So as I mentioned, I had so much fun in this episode, and Jennifer is just great energy, so I know you're going to love it. And in this episode, Jennifer gives some great resources on building your business, dating, matchmaking, all that great stuff. So you want to make sure you go to supportissexypodcast.com, go to the search icon, and just type in Jennifer, JENNIFER. Her show notes page will pop up, and you'll see all the links and all the information and the resources there. All right, so now, without further ado, Jennifer Miotke. So Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us for an episode of Support is Sexy. I'm excited to have you here.
I'm excited to do it.
Excellent. I'm excited to ask you all my dating questions. This is going to be a selfish episode.
Oh.
So first question, when did you first fall in love with entrepreneurship?
So I naturally sort of evolved into being an entrepreneur here. Mm-hmm. The owner of the business financially, her name is Sarah Kathryn Smith, but I run the business for her. And I've been able to just create a very successful, growing business for her. So she calls it me her partner because I make all the money the business makes. So to answer your question, what I'm loving, although I'm just now sort of evolving. My daughter, I have a 3-year-old daughter. She made a picture of a caterpillar last night, and I thought it was me. Of what I'm going through, because I've been sort of a workaholic, and having a 3-year-old daughter, and as the business has just naturally grown, and it's now to a point where it is growing and making more money year over year, more money month over month, that I'm allowing myself some flexibility. And that's what I love the most about entrepreneurship. But as I feel like I am an owner, I think about it all the time. I listened to your podcast this morning. I thought about who I would have as a mentor. So I like that I could go in late and work out and have some flexibility, but it's also, it's kind of fun that it's your baby,
right.
You're always thinking about it.
Right. Now, where did you grow up?
I am from Columbia, South Carolina, a small town called Irmo. It is a suburb of the capital, and it's if Atlanta folks are listening, it's similar to Alpharetta to Atlanta.
Okay. So what was a young Jennifer like?
It depends on what stage. So, when I was in elementary school, I was always really gutsy, kind of a leader, a cool kid, if you will. And when I was in middle school and high school, we changed schools. And I was very quiet. I was friends with outsiders, really. Like quiet, all different ethnic makeups, a little bit of, in some ways, the outcast of a lot of different groups. And I always felt like I had this, like really kick-ass, cool side of me that people see that I always wanted to let out. And I think that is something that still drives me. When I went to college, the first time I went through Rush, I was passed over by the sorority I wanted. But then the sorority that I joined came to the campus, and I joined it years later. And I was very instrumental in making sure that we were the best. And I've always felt like I was sort of this person that got overlooked, and I wanted to be heard. So that has always driven me to want to be the best.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like now as an adult that you sort of found your voice and you're able to be heard in the ways that you want to?
Yeah, I'm still working on that, which is one of the reasons I'm excited about doing a podcast like this.
Yay.
And I've reached out to other people about doing this is because I think a part of being the best is giving back and being the most knowledgeable about your field. And so this is just a way to do that.
Excellent. Now, who would you say were some of your greatest influences growing up?
So I would say my father, Michelle Brown, who was the first matchmaker I worked for, and then Sarah Kathryn currently, who owns the company. So, my dad, when I first started out in the world after college, I had a couple different jobs where I wanted to quit, and he would not let me quit. And that having to survive thing, has really just kind of given me grit. Mm-hmm. So like when I worked for the Muscular Dystrophy Association, I was fresh out of college. They literally gave me a phone book and they were like, go get us some sponsorships. And I freaked out. I was nervous getting on the phone, and I called my dad and I said, this is not what I want to do. And he said, you cannot quit this job. You'll be at your first job out of college for a year. And then we can talk about whether or not you want to stay there. And I ended up finding mentors in that field, being in that position for 3.5 years. So it was really awesome. And then the same thing when I worked for a bad dating service, I realized it was unethical. And he said, well, you need to pay your rent, right? You cannot quit your job until you find another job. So I feel like not letting me fall back on him, like financially, gave me this grit and this determination that like made me kind of push through things. So he's been huge. Michelle Brown owned the first franchisee ever of It's Just Lunch, which is probably the most popular national dating service there is.
What's it called?
It's called It's Just Lunch.
Oh, It's Just Lunch. Okay.
Yeah. Have you heard of it?
I haven't.
Okay. So, they were sort of one of the big instrumental players in what we do, where they work with educated professional people. They advertise on airline magazines, and Michelle Brown owned one of the first franchisees ever of that business, and she trained other franchisees in that business. So, she really taught me a lot about how to sell, how to do interviews, how to conduct myself, with highly successful people. And then Sarah Kathryn, I mean, she really is that like wind beneath my wings song sort of in a way, because she owns the business. She financially holds the financial strings, but she's given me so much leeway to treat it like it is mine because of, all that I've done to grow the company for her, which has really been awesome. I mean, she could have just treated me like an employee and I probably would have been relatively happy, but this makes me, it inspires me to grow her business more by treating me like an owner.
Right. Now, in the first example where you talked about your dad sort of not letting you quit and then you mustering up the courage, I guess, to keep going in that business that you were working in or that company you were working for, what do you think it was in that moment that made you say, I'm going to push through this and make this happen? Because it sounds like, along with your dad saying you can't quit, of course, there's that. Your dad says you can't do it, you don't do it. But do you think there was something in you that you had to pull up to say, I can do this, to sort of convince yourself, in other words?
A little bit, but I've heard some of the other entrepreneurs in your podcast speak, and some of them were raised poor, and it was the same. It was really the same thing to a lesser degree. I had to work to be able to live, and it was that simple. So, like, not giving up was just not an option.
Right.
Like, as soon as he said you have to make it through your first year, it was like a boot camp or a workout class. I was going to do it, and I just was going to suck it up and do it. So I just sucked it up and did it,
Mm-hmm. And you tap into that now when you have to make something happen, right?
Yeah, and it tapped into, like, really what was behind all that was fear of getting on the phone. And now I'm 40 years old, and I'm like a shark. I'm like literally not. I mean, I might get a little bit nervous,
which is normal.
But I'm not at all nervous to tell people what I think about dating, give them advice, to get rejected over the phone. I'm beyond all that. And it was really that first job, just getting beat up a lot, that, allowed me to push through that fear.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I wanted to ask about it because I know a lot of us come to, whether it's when we're younger or even now, this point where we're faced with having to do something that we're afraid of, like you said, getting on the phone or rejection and that kind of thing. And you have to figure out a way to push through it. So I was interested in what you did to make that happen. Mm-hmm. So with Michelle, when you worked with Michelle's company, did you always think that matchmaking or something like that was something that you wanted to do? I mean, when you went to school, what did you study when you went to college?
Okay, I'm going to try to, do you want me to answer this question like a Southerner and start from the very beginning?
I want you to answer the question like Jennifer.
Oh, okay. So I went to college and I majored in corporate communications, and I thought I wanted to be Oprah.
Nice.
And, I thought that I wanted to do something in PR or something like that. And then I took one of those tests that shows where your aptitudes, where what your strongest aptitude is. And it was very strongly sales. And I remember talking to the career counselor, and I guess I just thought everybody that did sales was like a car salesman or something. And I said I didn't want to do it. And she sort of enlightened me what sales was all about. And so yeah, and then I was hired by a temp agency to work for the Muscular Dystrophy Association as a fundraiser, and I ran clinics and support groups as well as doing fundraising for them in Charleston. And I wanted to be in Atlanta, the big city, if you're from Columbia, South Carolina. And so I made a transition to just doing a strict fundraising role here. But I quickly realized that I was poor, and that's frowned upon in Atlanta. And so I went to do sales, and then I sold payroll and I sold food, and I just didn't get the warm and fuzzies doing that I did with working for a nonprofit, but I wanted to make money. And so I started reading books, Do What You Are, What Color's Your Parachute. And at that time I had been a member of It's Just Lunch. Like I was a member of it while reading these books. And I thought, this is what I want to do. So I called every matchmaker in town and said, I want to work for you, and I'll work for you for free. And eventually Michelle hired me, and she had been my matchmaker.
So wait, when you say you were a member of It's Just Lunch, you were a member of the dating service looking to get matched up with someone.
That's right. So I joined It's Just Lunch when I was brand new to the city, and I didn't know of anybody because I thought it'd be fun. And it was. I met a boyfriend. And then and I was working for the Muscular Dystrophy Association. So then after I left the Muscular Dystrophy Association to make more money, and do sales. And I wasn't happy doing sales. I decided that I wanted to be a matchmaker because I thought it'd be fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, kind of like a young, dumb kid that wanted to do dating. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I called Michelle and I said, I want to work for you. And she said, I don't have an opening. And I was like, all right, I'm going to call everybody else in town. And I did. And I worked for one of them, you know? So I did seek it out.
Mm-hmm. Now, you're president of Atlanta's On One Matchmaking, which is where you are now with Sarah Kathryn. And how did you become involved in that business? How did you make that transition from where you were to here?
So I went into sales, and I eventually worked for another matchmaker. I eventually worked for Michelle for 3.5 years when it was franchise owned. Then I left the business because I wanted to get more knowledge about business. So I went to be an accounting and finance recruiter for a little while. And sometime after that, I went into HR recruiting, and it wasn't a fit for me because I'm a little bit of a ballsy personality. HR was just not my jam. And I posted on Facebook, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, and I'm 35. And Sarah Kathryn was like, come and work for me. And I knew who she was because I had also joined her service, 888 Dinner Club. You know, I was like a little dating service guru, checking them all out.
Right.
As a client. And so I was in between jobs, and I was selling 888 for her, thinking I would go back into recruiting. And she wrote me an offer on a cocktail napkin. And 888 was a part-time sales job, and I grew it into a full-time sales job. And then she had one-on-one matchmaking, but was only selling it to very successful men and probably only had 2 clients. And I grew it to what it is today, which is several hundred clients since 2009.
Wow. Now tell everyone what 888 Dinner Club is.
Yes, 888 Dinner Club. It's such an awesome concept. It's Sarah Kathryn's original baby. The concept is 4 men and 4 women get together for dinner at roughly 8 o'clock. That's why we call it 888. It's 8 people going to dinner at roughly 8 o'clock. We have a very niche crowd. All of our clients are educated professionals. We're happy that it's also a diverse group who's generally well-traveled, generally pretty fit, and what I like to think, best of all, fun and spontaneous, because people join that service when they are happy and fearless and looking to meet other people kind of like them, because people that are too scared don't do it, because it's a dinner party where you don't know anybody, and you know, you have to really put yourself out there. So it's an awesome service. Probably 5 people that we know of every year get married in 888 Atlanta. And the services sometimes actually integrate with pulling matches from 888 to be a match for the people in the matchmaking service, which is also real fun.
So it's like 2 different services that you have for the company. It's not a part of a whole package. That's not part of the process. 888 is a different service that you offer.
888 is a separate business than one-on-one matchmaking. 888 is group matchmaking and these, dinner party concepts, and one-on-one does individual matchmaking.
I see.
But what I was saying is because it's, we're a small local business owned by one owner, that sometimes last year I had 2 women that were 888 members that I set up with my one-on-one men, and they married them.
Wow.
So sometimes they integrate, right? Sometimes I have somebody cancel off an 888 dinner table, and I have a one-on-one guy who's a perfect fit, so we have them go. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? So they do kind of integrate what we try to do is truly make our clients happy. So whatever we have to do that to make a great table on 888, whatever we have to do to make a really great match on one-on-one, we do.
What would you say was key for you in growing the business as you did? You said from 2009 to now, it's grown from a few clients or several clients to hundreds now. What was key for you as a leader?
Well, this wasn't total rocket science for me. So It's Just Lunch, which I always thought had a great model. They changed their model and they went national. I guess it would be sort of like, McDonald's being a local chain, and then they went national and they bought their, they bought their supplies from other products. So for lesser money, and the quality went down, something like that, maybe. Mm-hmm. just lunch, I felt like the same thing happened. They created regional hubs where they weren't a local touchy-feely franchise-owned matchmaker anymore. They were like a big national firm. So I essentially just copied their model and did what I thought Sarah Kathryn did well. So usually in matchmaking businesses, there's either matchmakers that serve their clients almost like being a headhunter for that client, right? And all they do is they say, Elayne, I'm going to find you your perfect man. I've got your metrics about, age range, everything he's looking for. I'm on the hunt for you. And they will specifically look for you. And you might usually, if it's that kind of model, it's usually 10 to 15,000. And then there's matchmakers where they only match members with members. We integrated a little bit of both, which is kind of what's made us strong. It can get really sticky sometimes because, you have people wanting to do the service for free because they know that you can set up your clients for free. But you just have to keep in mind that you will always do what's best for your client. You want your client to meet the best person possible. Ideally, it's another member because you're killing two birds with one stone. But if it's not, you have to be willing to go outside the service. And that's what I feel like we're unique in. I mean, we definitely headhunt for our clients and we definitely match members with members. And I feel like having both of those concepts work has made our reputation so good.
And has the business grown, would you say, or does it grow mostly by referrals? People telling people the great experience they had. That's actually how I found out about you all with Jill, who married someone who was in your Jill Harris. Yes, married Rob.
Rob, he can do the crane. When he joined, he did the crane yoga pose in my office. It was awesome. So yeah, I mean, I guess they're a perfect example. I feel like Rob knew somebody who got married through the service, and Jill, I called somebody that knew Jill to find a match for Rob. So that's kind of how it all works. I mean, I would say about 35% of our business is referrals. And then so much of our business is really based on people just looking up matchmakers, and we have such great reviews, and, we're connected on Facebook with a lot of the events that we do that when they compare us to our competitors, we do stand out, So lots of natural leads coming in that way too.
What would you say people should look for in a good matchmaker, or what makes you a great matchmaker?
So Sarah Kathryn did an article about this. I'll have to send it to you.
Yeah, send it to me and I'll make sure I link to it on your page.
Awesome. Okay. So the main thing that I think that people should look for in a matchmaker is I think they should look local. Just like food. It's better if it's local. You know who those people are. It's worse if it's national because usually it's kind of like a telephone game. There was somebody who sold you the service who then relayed to somebody else who your matches were, who then relayed to a coordinator in another city who's reaching out to you about your matches. Do you know what I mean? It gets too big. So I would always say go local for a matchmaker. The other thing I would say is to make sure that there's a good exchange is with the matchmaker. One of the most frustrating things for me is when people come to see me and they're like, I don't know, I was hoping you can help me. Who should I date? And I'm like, there's no direction at all. I expect for them to give me direction, but I think that they expect for me to use my years of experience, 10 in the field, being a matchmaker, to direct them and guide them to what might make the most sense for them. So I think you need to find a matchmaker who's knowledgeable about dating, who's local, who you feel like is listening to you.
Right. Who's not just pairing you just to get her clients off the list.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, very opinionated matchmakers that will argue with their clients about who they need to meet. And, I can find myself kind of winding up in that place too sometimes, and I have to correct myself and remind them that they're who pays my paycheck and puts food on my table. So I'm happy to give them what they want. Now I can offer them advice based on what they want and why it might not be good for them, but ultimately it's their decision. Right.
And now one-on-one matchmaking has had over 300 marriages, right?
Yes, at least.
At least. Excellent. Exactly. Would you say most of your clients are men or women? Who comes to you the most?
We definitely have an equal number of women as men.
Oh.
And, so it's kind of interesting because, I love a beautiful, smart woman, but I have sometimes women come to me and assume that they're just in the courtesy client pool. And I have beautiful women that have paid me money. So I definitely have as many women as men. Right now I have slightly more men, but I'm talking like it's a variable of 4 or 5 people. It's pretty.
I'm surprised. I don't know why I thought it would be skewed one way or the other. I thought you might have more men and women might be afraid to give a matchmaker a try for some reason. So I'm glad to hear that it's just about even.
Yeah.
Excellent. So what do you find then are the greatest challenges that professional women, or like my listeners mostly are women entrepreneurs, face when it comes to dating? What have you come up against?
So super successful women, I think that they are used to being in control and being very alpha because they've had to be to get ahead in business. But it's almost like they have to take that hat off and put on a new hat when it comes to dating. And I give people advice about this all the time. In fact, we do individual date coaching sessions as well. But I think that, men are attracted to softness and vulnerability and femininity in a woman in the same way that you're attracted to a man with a plan who's very alpha, who's driven and a leader. They're attracted to women that are feminine. And so you have to consciously think not to act like a man on a date. In business, that gets you ahead. But in dating, that will make the man want to hire you, not make out.
Oh, that will make the man want to hire you, not make out with you. That's good, Jennifer. That's a good one. Going to put that up on the wall. So what advice then would you have for women who say they're quote unquote too busy to date? And I've tried that before. I'm too busy.
I just think that you guys, that when people say that, they have to get real with themselves that they don't really want to be in a relationship. And that's okay. That's okay if you don't want to be in a relationship right now, but if you said you were, too busy to work out, then I would tell you your fitness or health didn't matter that much to you, or you would make it a priority. 8 at 8 dinner club, most clients are going to one event a month, maybe 2. So I think in fact, one of my favorite therapists there is, she's a relationship therapist. Her name is Dr. Janet Page, also a big influence on my advice that I give. She said to me before, the number one reason people aren't in relationships is apathy. And that really, I see it every single day. I was going to meet with a guy today who has been netting over $1 million for 20 years. When he was my client before, he rarely gave feedback. He initiated the meeting with me today, and then he canceled it. He's apathetic. He's 53, never been married, and says he wants to have children. His actions don't reflect that. You make a priority for things you really want in life. And so, I would say that they don't want it bad enough.
How do you coach people, or do you in those situations? Do you coach people through that, or do you just tell them, I know you're very tell it like it is. Do you just tell them, I don't believe you want this? Or do you say, these are the things that I think you need to change in order to really make this happen if you want a relationship?
Well, what I've started to say to people, because I'm so passionate about what I do, and I really do want to get them in a relationship. And one of the things that I've come to grips with is that I can't want it for them more than they want it for themselves. And so, when I finally meet with this man, I didn't say his name, did I? No,
you didn't.
When I finally meet with this man, I will say, if at any point I feel like I am making you a priority and you're not making this process a priority by not giving feedback, then I will quit making matches for you. You have to give me feedback to give me direction. So I have that conversation with people. That I can't care about this more than you do, and the squeaky wheel gets the grease. The clients that are all in my face, I have clients demand to meet with me face to face, 3 or 4 dates in, that want to talk to me. I am on the ball for them. I wake up in the middle of the night and make myself a note about a match that I want to do for them because I know they want it, and it makes me want it for them. But the clients that check out, that don't give feedback, that are too busy to date, I'm checked out too. I'm not going to want your goals for you more than you want them.
Right. And for feedback, you mean after they have a date and they tell you how it went and what they thought or what they might want differently or something? Right.
Yeah. So, for instance, back to apathy, we send clients an email where they are dropped down 4 or 5 questions and a fill in the blank, as well as call them to have a conversation. There are clients that don't call us back and don't fill out the feedback form. You obviously don't want to be in a relationship and that's fine. But I'm not gonna. There's no maximum number of people that they can meet. Mm-hmm. So I'm definitely not. They're probably not seeing all there is to offer because I never hear from them.
Right, and these are people who are paying you on a monthly or whatever basis, but still not taking advantage of the service.
It's feedback, right?
Interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. People who go ahead and these aren't people who are trying to see if they want to work with you. These are people who have already invested some money and they still don't. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, just think about how many people there are that start a diet, that are always starting diets or always doing, new workouts at the gym, but or
I guess it's like joining a gym and never going.
Exactly. Same kind of thing. This is like a little bird on their shoulder, their mom on their shoulder, like nagging them. They're so-and-so years old. They've never been married. They really need to do something about it. So, but actions speak louder than words. So sometimes they join the service to relieve that pain of that nagging thing that's always at them about how they've not made what should be one of the most important things in their life a priority. They've addressed it, but then they're not following through. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally know what you mean. What's that?
It happens a lot. I'd say 50% at least 30 to 35% of clients fall in that pit. They just give up.
Wow. That's interesting. I'm trying to check myself as you're saying this, making sure that I'm not falling into this category. Very interesting.
You need to at least fill out a profile to be a courtesy client. You never know. You know who I'm meeting tomorrow? I'm meeting a guy who is a very successful African-American man who's coming in with his TV show, who's looking for matches. You never know, Elayne.
You never know. So you said I need to fill out a form? Send me the form. I'm going to fill it out because now you really that what you just said really resonated with me about this idea of joining, a matchmaking, or I think of joining online or apps and all this stuff we do and then never do anything with it. I ignore the emails. I think you struck a nerve there. I told everybody this was going to be a selfish episode, so there you go. Now, why would you say then overall matchmakers are a good option for professional women or quote-unquote busy women and that kind of thing? For women who never considered a matchmaker as an option, what would you say?
Well, I think this is just becoming more and more normal. It's outsourcing. You outsource people to do your dry cleaning, your yard, your cleaning your house, assistance. So it's really not uncommon to do online dating anymore. It really is about the time. So, if you would consider doing online dating, of course you should consider a matchmaker. It's just a luxury of having somebody weed through all the riffraff for you and having met your dates in person.
Right. And what's the process like? Does they come to you and then what happens? Do you meet with them in person or do they fill out a form first? What's your process?
We have clients all kinds of different ways. People walk into my office like a retail store and join and go on dates 2 days later. But, and I've had clients just call in and do that. So, we'll take them any way they want to come as long as they're serious and motivated. But, the most normal way people think that they do is they fill out a profile at oneonmatchmaking.com or 8at8.com. And it's sort of like a proprietary Facebook page, and it's where I can review who they are and who they're looking for so that I can think about whether or not I can match them,
Right.
That's sort of one of the misconceptions too. Yesterday I talked to somebody and they just drilled me about what we did. And this really does have to be, we don't take everybody. We're a small local boutique matchmaking service. We don't need to take everybody. And I don't want to take everybody.
Right.
So I need to have them fill out a profile so it looks like they're in my wheelhouse of matching.
Have you ever had to fire a client? I know this is something I talk to people a lot who have agencies or smaller companies. It's just like you said, you don't want to not waste your time with someone who's not serious, but you want to make sure you have the best people who are invested in their success as you are.
Yeah. We fire 2 or 3 clients a year. More depth about that if you'd like. But, one of the things that we do, like I said, local boutique matchmaking service, I treat the clients like friends, and I expect for them to treat me like a friend, even though there's been money exchanged, right? I write a bio for them. We get a marketing spiel. I'm calling somebody to tell them how wonderful they are. So if they constantly act flaky, they no-show dates, they get drunk on their dates, we get complaints about them and they act obnoxious, we kick them out.
Right.
Because if they did that to their friend would not set them up anymore. And I don't want to either. Here's your money back.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense. Now, you mentioned earlier that you also do coaching for the clients too. It's not just pairing them with someone and sending them off into the wild to figure it out. What would you say are your 3 tips or your top 3 tips for a great first date?
Okay, yes, I read about this. I thought this was a great question. Okay, so I would say number 1, have fun no matter what. I think a lot of times people are looking for their date to sort of entertain them or impress them or prove to them that they're the right person for them. And they really need to think, I am going out looking good and having a great time, regardless of how the other person is. I mean, you're interviewing me. I mean, I'm sure you've interviewed people before that were not awesome, but you're going to make it great because it's your show. So you're going out and you're going to, be out and about and be seen like your grandma told you to. Have a great time. It is up to you. And if you cannot have fun by yourself, then you're probably not a good date. So I would say that you kind of need to go into that date like I'm gonna have a great time. You know. I would also say that I would come with questions because, unfortunately, your date might not be as fun as you are. So I would ask some questions about, like, do you have any great vacations planned? Like, what are some of your favorite TV shows right now? Tell me about your friend network or your social network. I mean, your job as a date is to be engaging and be and to try to make the other person like you. It's not up to them to entertain you. You're totally in control of that. So I would come with questions. I would have the mindset of you're going to have a great time no matter what. And then the third thing, I would thank my date and compliment them. People fall in love with people that make them feel good about themselves, that are grateful and not entitled and happy people. I hear from men all the time that, they spent $150 on the dinner and the woman didn't even thank them, which I find kind of appalling. I mean, if your girlfriend took you out to dinner and spent $150 on your birthday, you would definitely thank you. This man does not know you. Right. It is a date. So, yeah, you owe him a thank you. And why not tell him he has a great tie? Why not make him feel awesome about himself? Because you'll have fun making him feel good about himself. So there's things.
Great. Those are good. Now, how much would you say someone should expect to spend if they hire a matchmaker? What's about a range? I'm sure it probably varies depending on the service, but is there a range that people should look for?
Yeah. So matchmakers pretty much in any major city are roughly $3,000 to $10 to $15,000. Depending on the detail of the search. But our basic matchmaking service is $3,000 to $5,000.
Okay. And then what would you say, and I ask you this again, this is selfish, but it's funny when I just moved here a few months ago to Atlanta, and whenever I ask women that I talk to, so tell me what dating is like in Atlanta, they sort of just make this face with a blank stare. They don't really have any comments about it. They kind of don't want to tell me what's going on. Even people who are in relationships or dating, etc. So what would you say, I should say, about dating in Atlanta? Is it like any other city? Is there something special or unique about it that people should know? What would you say about dating in Atlanta?
I think dating in Atlanta is kind of hard. I think your image really matters here. Especially where I work in Buckhead, it sort of feels like the Beverly Hills of Atlanta. Right. Image really matters. I mean, being fit and being healthy is pretty big. Being stylish and, urban and trendy and thinking about your appearance is big. So I think that people need to think about that, like what they're bringing to the table, how they look in terms of being fit or being healthy and being stylish. And I think that is a factor. And I also think that people need to rework what they're looking for. One of my favorite sort of mentors, I heard her speak at a matchmaking conference. Her name is Rachel Greenwald. She read a book called Have Him at Hello. and then another book about how to get married over 35. What she teaches is women to, when they say what they're looking for, to say that they're looking for somebody wonderful. And I think that the online dating and all the dating apps has got people looking for sort of this box person and weird sciencing their match.
Right.
And that's what's making it harder than it needs to be, is they have too much criteria instead of being open. So it's hard. Your image matters. In Atlanta, there's a lot of beautiful women and there's a lot of attractive, successful men here. I would take that into account, but I would try to do an internal inventory and make sure that you're not doing too much criteria to limit you.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Limiting yourself by your list.
Right.
Right. That's what people say. All right. Thank you for an honest answer, which I never really get from people. So what would you say, Jennifer, your personal support networks looks like?
I talk to Sarah Kathryn literally 3 times a day. Mm-hmm. And she loves that because she has a 3-week-old son that I call her all the time still.
Oh, she's so great.
I also try to stay involved with other matchmakers. I'm going to a conference at the end of this month that I'm super excited about in New York with the Matchmaking Institute. So I stay in touch with other matchmakers. I still stay in touch with Michelle Brown, who owned It's Just Lunch. And then recently I had this sort of gut feeling that I needed to have one of my clients be a mentor to me about the business. His name is Hal. And I've reached out to Hal about some business ideas because I wanted to stop bothering Sarah Kathryn so much.
Business ideas outside of matchmaking? Some other things you want to do?
About direction to take the business and get his thoughts on, different things that were happening. So, for instance, remember when I mentioned that I have many courtesy clients, sometimes that are women, and I've had courtesy clients that are men, which means that there's somebody I recruited specifically for a member. So I've had several of these women who know me and at some point want to hire me. But it's complicated because I've been setting them up for free. But now they want to be in the driver's seat. So recently I asked Hal about how to go about that and what that would look like. And, and he's just a very successful, dynamic business person. So I'm always looking to get ideas from other people, specifically women entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Actually. Yeah.
Excellent. Yes, that's right. So how many people do you have in the company right now? It's you, and then how many work with you on a day-to-day basis?
So on a day-to-day basis, we have Anna Laura, who schedules the dates for the one-on-one matchmaking clients, as well as coordinates all the dinner parties, the 8 at 8 dinner parties. And then Emily, who does a lot of social media, special projects, that kind of thing for me and Sarah Kathryn.
Would you say that staying, like you said, boutique size is something that you all want to remain that size, or are you looking to grow it or franchise it like this other company did or things like that? Has any of that been part of the discussion?
Yes. It's also why I've called, people in like Hal, because we're so excited and passionate about what we do. So some days we want to grow it to be a regional firm, and some days we want to really, just kind of hone in on our area and more recruiting for our clients. And it's something that we haven't figured out the answer to, but we know for sure that we want to be really strong in our city. And when people think of matchmaking and they think of dating, they think of us. And it's sort of like, when you think of a soft drink, you think of Coke. I mean, we want to be the one top of mind. And I think we're still working on getting to that place here.
Excellent. So in closing, Jennifer, if you think over your life and career and you had the chance to thank only one person whose support was critical to you personally or professionally, who would that be and what would you say?
Oh, it's going to make me tear up. I would say my dad, because he, from a young age, just taught me grit. I mean, I remember when I would play soccer, this is kind of funny. I played for a team called the Angels, and he would say, Jennifer, chill, eat red meat, take that girl out. And I would literally take that girl out. I mean, and from when I got that first job out of college and I wanted to quit because I was scared. And when I was working for the shady matchmaker and I wanted to quit and he wouldn't let me, I think that when I was a kid, when I would fall down, he would literally be like, do not cry, pick yourself back up. And I have a lot of that sort of resilience in me that is instilled in me for life because of him.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Are you an only child? Or you're only girl?
I have an older brother.
You have an older brother, but you're the girl. He wants you to be as strong as your brother.
Right, totally.
Excellent. So tell us how we can support you. Of course, I'll have links to everything and the great resources. You mentioned so many here, so I'll make sure I put that on your page. But how else can we support you and one-on-one matchmaking?
Well, you're asking me this on the spot, and I'm making up as I go. I've started doing a small podcast, and I don't know what I'm doing. I need your help. But
I certainly can help you. I personally, I can help you. Of course. Absolutely.
Well, it's literally Emily, who does the social media. It's on her cell phone. We're hitting record and putting it on our Facebook page. So I've started doing that because I have so many people that ask me the same questions all the time. Like, I just got off the phone with my client, and she was like, should I offer to pay? So we just do, how to handle a paycheck. We're posting that kind of thing online. Mm-hmm. So that would be huge. And I think just sort of spreading the word. Like I said, we want to be, when somebody thinks of dating or a matchmaker, that we're top of mind because of what we're sort of giving back in terms of knowledge about how to date.
And tell people where to find you, the website and social media and all that good stuff.
So we're all over Facebook. The company is called On One Matchmaking, and we use the numerals. Mm-hmm. So you can find that on Facebook. You could also spell it out. It should pop up either way. Right. And the other service is called 8at8, and it's just 8at8.com, also using the numerals 8. So it's 8, the word at, AT, 8, the numeral again.com, and one-on-one matchmaking is 1, the word on, 1, again, matchmaking.com. You can look for both of those on Facebook and 8at8.
Excellent. Jennifer, thank you so much. This was so fun. I'm glad I'm glad you were able to do this.
I might be introducing you to your dream man. You might be doing a podcast about it.
Listen to me. I want that form right now. I'm going to fill it out.
Sending it to you right now.
I'm going to be a nice courtesy client though, but I'm going to be asking you questions. What should I do? What should I say? Where should I go? What should I wear? I want to try it out.
No problem.
Excellent. So before you go, what's a parting piece of advice from you to our listeners about anything?
So the biggest advice that I give people, again, the best dating book that I tell women to read, are you writing this down, Elayne, since you're asking advice?
Absolutely.
Is called Have Him at Hello. It's written by Rachel Greenwald, and she interviewed 1,000 men in New York City, where you're from, Brooklyn, right?
Right.
And she asked them why they did or did not take a woman out on a second date. So what I like about the book, it's got a lot of that, pop, fluff culture that all women like about dating, but it also has graphs and charts and explanations. So it's a light read and it's a logical read. And one of the things that she says that's written in the first chapter is about not judging chemistry too strongly and, giving a guy a second chance, that you don't really know somebody. People don't bring their true self to a first meeting, and giving a date another chance. So I just think a lot of the aspects that she talks about in the first part of that book, which is not taking chemistry at face value, which I don't think anybody should do unless they're 16,
Right. And that's so interesting because chemistry is the first thing we all say, right? We didn't have any chemistry.
But a lot of times there's a phrase in dating, and it says the faster the flame, the quicker it burns out, and the slower the simmer, the longer it burns. So I think people discount people too much based on that first initial meeting.
And it's interesting too what you said or what she says about the first date, because I've heard people say try to at least get to the second date. Unless the person is a jerk, of course. In fact, I interviewed Samantha Edis, and she said that was her thing when she was dating. Try to get to the second date, because everybody's nervous during their first date.
Yeah. So remember when we talked about the top 3 things that you need to do to be prepared on a date? Be a great date.
Exactly.
You're going to have fun no matter what. And if you have fun no matter what, they're probably going to ask you out on a second date.
Right. Excellent. Jennifer, thank you so much. Hold on for just a second.
Okay.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that episode with Jennifer Miotke. As I said, so much fun. And remember, you can go to supportissexypodcast.com, search Jennifer. When you go to the search icon, her show notes page will pop up with the books, the resources, the women that she mentioned in this episode. All of that will be there with links so that you can easily find it. As always, I truly appreciate you listening. I'm so happy to have you here. And now you know what to do. Go out there and create something sexy. And I'll talk to you soon. Take care.